This is a response to Miss 80's recent video, the movie soundtrack tag. Consisting of 20 specific questions, the idea is that anyone that sees any of the videos is tagged, therefore invited and encouraged to do the same should they wish. So here we go. Here are the questions. How many soundtracks do you own? My current total is 295. First soundtrack you ever bought? The first soundtrack I ever bought was The Living Daylights back in 1987. Great soundtrack and one of John Barry's finest scores, mixed with music from The Pretenders and of course the theme by a-ha. It's by far my favourite Bond soundtrack, but not my favourite theme song. Most recent soundtrack purchase you added to your collection? At the time of shooting this video, the last one I added was the original Varese release of Gremlins 2. What's your most listened to soundtrack? This could be between a few, but for this I'll say Shocker. There's some great tracks on this. Anyone who's into late 80s rock should definitely check it out. In a very close second place would be one from the opposite end of the 80s, The Last American Virgin. Best opening song to a soundtrack? For this I'm going to go with Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, with Tina Turner's excellent We Don't Need Another Hero. 6. Favourite soundtrack or score composer, and your favourite composition by them. I don't like naming favourites as I appreciate many in different ways, but for the purpose of this challenge I'll go with James Horner and his score for Aliens, and the track in particular is Bishop's Countdown. Extremely effective in the film and was also used on a multitude of film trailers during the late 80s and early 90s. A movie that has a lackluster soundtrack. There's no thinking about this one. The biggest disappointment for me was the soundtrack to The Great Outdoors. It's missing several big pieces of music from the film, plus some of the songs are re-recordings of the original music, not the versions that were heard in the actual movie. A soundtrack that was better than the movie. Xanadu. The movie can't be described as anything other than awful, but the soundtrack is infinitely better. It consists of the first side being music by Olivia Newton-John, and the second by ELO. Favourite artwork, jacket or coloured vinyl soundtrack? I'll answer both of these. For colour I'm going to go with Commando, with its white and black splatter. And for cover, I'm going to go with a reissue of They Live. It's simple but very effective concept, resembling the subliminal messaging from the film. A soundtrack that needs to be reissued or pressed for the first time on vinyl. I'd love to see Michael Kamen's music for Highlander and also the missing Queen music get a nice deluxe set. At the moment the only official source for Highlander music is the Queen album A Kind of Magic and the singles from it. A bargain bin soundtrack? For me it has to be Outland. It's common as muck and probably the lowest value disc I have in my collection. Seems that there are more of these about that are clipped as returns on the second-hand market over ones that are actually sold. It's another solid score from the master that is Jerry Goldsmith. A soundtrack that includes your favourite band or artist? My favourite band is Queen, but to avoid clashing with Miss 80's whom had Flash Gordon, I'll go with Iron Eagle, which opens up with Queen's One Vision. A soundtrack where an actor from the movie also performs a track on the album. I'm going to change this question slightly to include the director and go with Big Trouble in Little China. The opening track is performed by John Carpenter's band The Coupe de Villes, which consists of himself, Nick Castle and Tommy Wallace. Real cheesy song, but to me it just epitomises both the film and the feel of 80s movies in general. A soundtrack where a band or artist actually performed in the movie. I'm going to go with Labyrinth by David Bowie. Both the songs and the score music on this album by Trevor Jones take me straight back to my childhood. The last movie you watched that you also have a soundtrack for? I just started rewatching the Lethal Weapon movies. I'm still on the lookout for the Lethal Weapon 3 LP, but I do have the first two. A Record Store Day soundtrack or score? My answer to this is the same one that Miss 80's chose, Masters of the Universe by Bill Conti. This is a great epic score. Regardless of whether you like the film or not, the score is absolutely spectacular. Essentially it's Star Wars should Bill Conti have done it. A soundtrack from the year you were born? My choice for this one is John Carpenter's Halloween, one of the most recognisable horror scores of all time. A soundtrack or score blind buy? For this I don't have an answer, it's just something I've never done. 19. A soundtrack you own on multiple formats? I have several of these. For this one, I'll go with Predator 2. 20. A soundtrack that always lifts your mood. The Never Ending Story. Not the Giorgio Moroder version, but the original music by Klaus Doldinger. As much as I love the remixes done for the international soundtrack, it's not a patch on the original. And the bonus is shout out to other channels that love soundtracks that might respond to the challenge. Shout out here of course to Beth over at Miss 80s Movies and Music, who set this challenge, and thanks for doing so. It was fun to do and really got me thinking on some of my choices. I'm really enjoying her output on YouTube at the moment. She does a great job of showcasing 80s soundtracks with well edited videos. Go check out her channel and see for yourself. Another channel I've discovered recently is Soundtracks with Birdman, a very knowledgeable fellow collector whose huge collection will probably outdo most who take part in this challenge. Most of his videos he does live, which is great to interact with. Cody over at H&S Collectibles also has some great pieces in his vinyl collection. His YouTube channel concentrates on showcasing his vinyl collection in addition to his other collectibles, such as Blu-rays and figures. He too also does a live video every Saturday night, which I try to take part in, but as I'm in the UK and he's in the US, it's usually on at 2 in the morning. And last but not least, Paul over at Grindhouse Funhouse. He has some great titles in his vinyl collection, and as I am, he's also a big fan of Res Saraband. Honourable mentions to both Popcorn and Vinyl and The Vinyl Score, two great channels that ooze passion for movie soundtracks. Although I don't think they will take part in the challenge, I'm happy to be proved wrong. So, that's me done. If you see this video and want to take part, please do so. You can find the channels I mentioned as well as the questions in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Retro Reels.